husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. But let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures. And look at her track record. How many times has she had to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology?
You're sipping your morning coffee, casually scrolling through the latest headlines, when a familiar name suddenly grabs your attention: Sunny Hostin. But this time, it's not about her fiery debates on The View. No, this is different. This is about her husband, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin, and it's not looking good. Dr. Hostin, a respected orthopedic surgeon, is now at the center of one of the biggest RICO cases in New York history, a scandal involving insurance fraud, illegal kickbacks, and a lawsuit so massive it has entangled nearly 200 people. If these allegations hold up, we're not just talking about fines or reputation damage. This is federal prison territory. Now, scandals like this always make waves, but what turned this into a full-blown media firestorm? One name: Joe Rogan. Rogan wasted no time tearing into the controversy on his podcast, calling out Sunny Hostin's hypocrisy. He pointed out how she frequently lectures about ethics and corruption, yet now her own husband is accused of serious criminal activity. And he didn't stop there. Rogan went on to obliterate The View, calling it one of the dumbest shows on television, and even joking that if you combined the hosts' IQs, you'd barely hit triple digits. The fallout? Massive. The internet is ablaze, social media is in overdrive, and the big question remains: how deep does this scandal really go? And more importantly, can Sunny Hostin escape the storm that's now knocking at her own front door?
If you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sunny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah.
Fans went wild. The internet erupted with memes, debates, and fiery reactions. Some rushed to defend Sunny, arguing that she shouldn't be held accountable for her husband's actions. Others backed Rogan completely, slamming The View for constantly calling out others while ignoring their own controversies. But what exactly is Dr. Hostin accused of? How did he get tangled up in such a massive case? And why is this RICO lawsuit a much bigger deal than most people realize? Let's break it down. Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin wasn't a household name until now. Before his legal troubles, he was just another respected, high-profile doctor in New York. His credentials were top-notch. He earned his medical degree from Johns Hopkins University, one of the most prestigious medical schools in the country, before specializing in orthopedic surgery and sports medicine. Over the years, he built a strong reputation, treating both elite athletes and everyday patients. Eventually, he launched his own practice, Hostin Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, in the heart of Manhattan. But beyond his medical career, things took a turn.
You know, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do. So there are a lot of problems with it. But the notion that we are in a violent country, this country was built on violence. We're a very violent country, and it's just undeniable that that's the case. And so I'm not, unfortunately, surprised that people are celebrating the use of violence.
For years, Dr. Emmanuel Hostin seemed to have it all: a thriving career, a picture-perfect family, and an unblemished reputation. Married to Sunny Hostin, co-host of The View, since 1998, their lives appeared straight out of a success story. With their son Gabriel studying at Harvard and their daughter Paloma at Cornell, they were the epitome of a power couple. But now a shocking scandal is threatening to unravel it all. Once respected as a highly skilled surgeon, Dr. Hostin is now at the center of one of the largest medical fraud investigations in New York history. His reputation, once flawless, is now hanging by a thread. This isn't just a simple malpractice case. It's a massive federal lawsuit under the RICO Act, linking him to nearly 200 others in an alleged multi-million-dollar insurance fraud scheme. The accusations suggest they exploited legal loopholes in New York's insurance system, targeting providers that cover taxi, Uber, and Lyft drivers. The lawsuit, filed by American Transit Insurance Company, has sent shockwaves through the medical community. If convicted, Dr. Hostin could be facing severe prison time, and the fallout from this case is only just beginning.
Always the people that always do the pointing, and it always comes back to them, all right? So when you said this is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York, you guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia case. Like the mafia one was number one. This one takes it over. So he was scamming insurance companies from taxi drivers, Uber drivers, and Lyft drivers. He was performing unnecessary surgeries and then providing fraudulent medical services in exchange.
A shocking lawsuit has surfaced, alleging that Dr. Hostin and his associates orchestrated a massive insurance scheme, exploiting loopholes in the state's no-fault insurance law. This law mandates that insurance companies cover medical expenses for accident victims, no questions asked about fault. But according to prosecutors, Hostin and his co-defendants turned this system into a goldmine. The accusations are staggering. They allegedly billed for surgeries and medical procedures that were either completely unnecessary or never happened at all. Instead of prioritizing patient care, Hostin is portrayed as a doctor who saw dollar signs over diagnoses. The lawsuit claims he preyed on low-income rideshare drivers, steering them away from physical therapy or less invasive treatments, and instead fast-tracked them straight to the operating table, all to maximize insurance payouts. And it doesn't stop there. The lawsuit also exposes an alleged kickback scheme, where Hostin and other doctors pocketed illegal payments for patient referrals. The more patients they funneled through the system, the more money they raked in, whether the procedures were needed or not. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping revelation, the sheer scale of the operation. If these allegations hold up, this could be one of the most audacious medical fraud cases in recent history.
According to a new lawsuit obtained by Page Six, the orthopedic surgeon was one of 200 defendants named in one of the biggest racketeer influence and corrupt organization cases ever filed in New York. Emmanuel was accused of federal insurance fraud and, quote, getting kickbacks by performing surgery and billing a company that insured taxi companies and Uber.
This lawsuit isn't just targeting a few doctors. It's taking aim at nearly 200 defendants, making it one of the most significant RICO cases ever filed in the state. The RICO Act, originally crafted to dismantle organized crime syndicates like the mafia, is now being wielded against medical professionals. And this case is so massive, it even overshadows some of the biggest mafia trials in New York history. If the allegations stand up in court, the fallout could be catastrophic. Dr. Hostin and the other defendants face the possibility of years behind bars, the loss of their medical licenses, and the financial ruin of paying back millions in damages. For a man who built his name as a leading orthopedic surgeon, this lawsuit threatens to wipe out everything he's worked for. But while Dr. Hostin fights for his career and freedom, there's another layer to this story, one that's fueling public scrutiny. His wife, Sunny Hostin, has built her reputation on exposing corruption and demanding accountability. Yet, in the face of this scandal surrounding her own husband, she's remained noticeably silent. And that silence hasn't gone unnoticed. It's exactly why Joe Rogan didn't hold back on his podcast, calling out the irony. Sunny Hostin has spent years positioning herself as a crusader for truth, tackling ethics, morality, and law as a former federal prosecutor and co-host of The View. She's been outspoken in her criticism of politicians, public figures, and celebrities, never hesitating to question their integrity. But now, with her husband entangled in a high-profile RICO case, she finds herself on the other side of the controversy. facing the same scrutiny she once imposed on others.
Citizen that has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is misinformation? How about removing some of the podcasts that disseminate this misinformation?
They have.
And that's
Here's where things get interesting. Are they truly the victims, or is there a bigger game at play? Insurance companies don't exactly have a spotless reputation. Time and again, they've been caught denying rightful claims, underpaying medical professionals, and exploiting every loophole to avoid paying what they owe. Some industry watchdogs claim that ATIC itself has a track record of delaying payments and employing aggressive legal tactics to sidestep its obligations to healthcare providers. This raises a critical question. Is this lawsuit really about justice? Or is it just a desperate move by an insurance company on the brink of collapse? Reports suggest that Attic has been treading on thin ice for quite some time, facing multiple lawsuits and financial instability. Allegations point to a pattern where they intentionally make it difficult for doctors to receive their rightful payments. In a bold statement, Sunny Hostin has already dismissed this lawsuit as nothing more than a cover-up for Attic's own shortcomings. She argues that her husband isn't the fraudster, Attic is the real manipulator, twisting the system to protect itself. If her claims hold weight, this case isn't just about Dr. H. It's about an ongoing battle between medical professionals and the insurance industry. For years, doctors have accused insurers of making it nearly impossible to receive fair compensation for essential treatments, pushing them toward desperate measures to keep their practices afloat. So, where does the truth lie? Are doctors like Hostin gaming the system, or are insurance companies using legal battles to mask their own unethical business tactics? One thing is certain, both sides have a lot at stake. If Attic wins, it could lead to massive payouts and criminal charges for numerous doctors. But if their case crumbles, it could expose how deeply insurance companies manipulate the legal system to evade accountability. At its core, this case isn't just about one doctor. It's a reflection of an entire industry that has been operating in the shadows for far too long. It forces us to ask, who's really corrupt, the doctors, the insurers, or both? Meanwhile, Sunny Hostin's reputation hangs in the balance, and the controversy has already drawn criticism from figures like Joe Rogan, who has slammed The View for sidestepping the issue. What do you think? Is Dr. Hostin guilty, or is this a well-orchestrated smear campaign? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this story is far from over.